Hi guys, it's Heather, the Butterfly Effect plant-based weight loss, and I owe you guys a weigh-in Wednesday, even though it's not Wednesday, it's Thursday, but I owe you one. And I realized that in my excitement to go to New Orleans, I didn't even do a weigh-in before I left. So I'm going to do a little bit of catch-up. Um, Before I left for New Orleans, I was down 3 pounds. So, in the excitement of getting ready for New Orleans, um, I'm going to be honest, I tried to take off a little bit of weight and it worked. And I just kind of tightened things up. Whenever I tighten things up, I always do the same thing. I up my fruits and vegetables and kind of um, am real careful about how much starch I have. And I just upped my activity level. Um, anyway, I was down about 3 pounds before I left, and now I came back and last week and on Friday, so I came back like really late Thursday night last week, and then on Friday I was um, up 2 pounds, and as of this morning I'm still up 2 pounds. So I'm thinking um, that's where I am. I'm up 2 pounds. So that puts me at 181 as of this morning. And that's fine. I mean, I went on vacation. I think I did pretty well on vacation. I could have probably done better. I wasn't great about eating all of the fruits and vegetables that I normally eat at home. On the other hand, I had a fabulous time and I really enjoyed my experience, and I'm proud overall because I kept my abstinence, and I did as best as I could. And so I'm totally fine with that, and that's where I am right now. So a while back, around Valentine's Day, I brought up a subject and then I never quite touched back on it like I wanted to. I had um, a bunch of stuff going on, and I got a cold, and then I got a cold again, as you can see from my little Rudolph nose. I have such fair skin that whenever I get sick, this happens, and it's embarrassing, but oh well. You know what? It just is what it is. And I think that I got sick from the plane, either from the plane or from my babies. And by my babies, I mean that I volunteer at a shelter for families experiencing homelessness, and it's a great gig. I get to hold the babies and the toddlers, so the under threes. I work in that room um, just for a couple hours once a week, so that their parents can take some life skill classes, because this is a really cool um, place for families, and they work with the parents a lot. So anyway, I think either the babies got me sick or the plane got me sick, but whatever the case, I'm sick. It's just a cold. But it's kind of miserable, so I'm going to be just taking it easy. Um, and I'm doing um, all my antiviral stuff that I do when I get a cold, which is I do excuse me, my eye, garlic and ginger and lemon juice, and I like a product called Immune 24/7. That's a black elderberry and a zinc and a bunch of stuff um, that is an immune support. And I also do, what is it called? Sovereign Silver. So I'm throwing everything at it, and upping my fruits and vegetables, and I need to get some sleep. Um, and this too shall pass. So anyway, I just wanted to address the cold. But anyway, because of getting sick and getting all these colds, I never really delved into the subject that I brought up around Valentine's Day, and I wanted to go ahead and do that. And that is about loving yourself. And specifically, loving yourself when you don't necessarily feel that lovable. And so what I know from that is that I spent a long time not feeling good about myself. Not feeling good about myself because my body being so large, I was very overweight. I was 436 pounds. I'm 5'1". And it was a situation where every time I would walk in a room, I would be acutely aware of being the biggest person in that room. And toward the end, when I was at my biggest, of people staring at me, um, staring at me and then looking away really quickly, or, having a little scowl on their face like they're repulsed. So I was very self-conscious and I didn't love myself. I was mad at myself and I blamed myself for letting this happen. And I also um, was very, very frustrated with myself because I didn't feel like I was living in integrity. I had a set of beliefs. For instance, I loved animals, but I was still eating them. Or, I really believe that a plant-based diet is the very most environmental thing that you can do for the planet. I'm very much an environmentalist. And I was in theory, and yet I wasn't living out that portion of my beliefs, if that makes sense. And because I think that's what gives us the disconnect. When we just know, I call it divine discontent. And I actually borrowed that from Mary Manon Morrissey, who's a writer. And divine discontent is when you know you were meant for more than this. And your soul, like your authentic self, won't let you accept less than what you deserve, or less than what you're capable of, less than who you're really supposed to be, who you really are, and that is the thing that I want to tell you is you are that person. Sometimes we have masks over the top of that person, or we have behaviors that don't align with that person, or we have thoughts of unworthiness for the person that we could be or should be or really are. But none of that changes your inner value or the person that you really are. None of that touches the authentic self. And even when things like, the inner addict come out, or the self gets sabotaged by behaviors because your brain is under the influence of drugs. To me, when you're having, let's just say chemicals, okay? So for me, when I eat sugar and flour, my brain gets under the influence of chemicals and it kind of hijacks things and keeps me from being able to act in integrity all the way, or it has in the past. And so I think that is where unworthiness stems from, both from society telling us that we're not good enough because we have extra adipose tissue on our body that is not currently in fashion. There's that. There's painfulness with that. For me, there was a lot of depression about my health not being good and feeling responsible for that. Like justifiably, I was hurting myself. And so I couldn't feel good about that. I was literally in pain and suffering and dying. If you really want to get specific about it, I had a lot of conditions that could very quickly have spiraled down and made me very sick, or even taken my life. And they were taking my life in that they were stealing my joy. They were stealing my peace. I wasn't able to do my activities of daily living. Like, I felt, I'm not crying. I have something in my eye and it's bugging me. Sorry. My eyes have been itching with this cold. So I'm sorry about touching my eye so much, but it's really bugging me. Okay. So I wasn't able to do my activities of daily living in the way that I wanted to because I had so much pain. So I wasn't able to, for instance, I love to hike, I love to walk, I love nature, but I couldn't go camping because I wouldn't be able to sleep, and then I would have a migraine, and I was barely able to sleep as it was. It just felt like my world was getting smaller and smaller, and that was happening on the basis of behaviors that in my mind I should be able to control. So I think that is where unworthiness stems from. It's both, external, um, where you feel like society is not affirming you, or you don't feel pretty enough or smart enough or whatever enough, organized enough. If you make any little mistake that you would totally forgive a friend for, so you forget that you were supposed to have a phone call, or you forget to send somebody a birthday card on time or something like that, something that you would forgive a friend for, you're just like vicious to yourself. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. Like, it just seems to prove your unworthiness to yourself, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because you're saying all these mean words to yourself and thinking all these mean thoughts, and then because you don't feel worthy, you act in ways that do not align with what you would do for someone who was worthy. In other words, you may not make the effort to dress yourself in clothes that make you happy, or put makeup on if that makes you happy, if that's your thing. I'm not saying we should wear makeup if we don't, if you don't want to, but like if that's your thing, we just might not take care of ourselves the way that we should. We might we just don't deem ourselves worthy of the effort, or we don't think it would make any difference. And I saw that happening in myself. So part of that was societal, and part of it was my not living up to my own expectations. Um, and just not feeling like I had the energy to make the enormous effort that it takes to change long term. So for me to go from over 400 pounds, even down to where I am now, took several years of concerted effort and several relapses that I had to recover from, where I would have periods where I wasn't doing well, and then I had to re-rally all of my resources and make a really strong concerted effort again, because it's so hard when you're first coming off a relapse. And it's the same thing, like to get an airplane off the ground requires like a tremendous amount of thrust, but once it's in the air, it barely takes any fuel, right? All of the fuel is burned on the takeoff. And it's the same with us. Like, once you get it off the ground and you get firmly established, it's a lot easier. But I kept going back to that state where it would be hard again. And so when you know that you need every bit of your resources to make these positive changes, you can't afford the luxury of being mean to yourself. Okay. And so my proposal to you, if you find yourself in that place where you just know that it would be beneficial to behave in a loving way toward yourself, but you don't feel like you can, or you don't feel like you're worthy, I invite you to fake it. And what I mean by that is act as if you were a person that you admire and that was worthy of being well taken care of. Become your own best friend, as cheesy as that sounds. But think about it, like even more than that, I always think of it like, can I take care of myself the way I would a beloved child? And what I mean by that is, like, I made sure my kids ate their vegetables. I made sure they got their nutrition. I made sure they didn't have too much sugar or things that I thought could hurt them. Um, other harmful substances. I did that for my kids because I loved them. And I risked them, being upset with me um, and not giving in to every little thing that they wanted because it was for their highest good, right? Like, I'm their mom. I love them. That's my job, to take care of them. When you love someone, you take care of them, right? And so, can you do that for yourself? Can you go back and you can kind of parent yourself? One of the things that's the biggest joy of as a parent is to buy yourself, to buy your kid something they're totally going to be excited about, right? Like, they want the thing, the special Christmas or birthday present, and you know that they want it, and they're talking about it all the time, and you almost get more enjoyment out of watching them open it when it finally comes time, and the anticipation that they have. That is a great feeling. And so, what does your beloved inner child, what would delight her? What would she love? You know, um, and really, do you know her? Do you know your authentic self anymore? You know, um, really think about that. Like, what makes you happy? What makes your inner self happy? For me, it's things like the color purple, like jewel tones, taking hikes in nature, um, long showers, like long hot showers, really good books, getting excited about learning new things. All of these things are things that when you're beating yourself up, you kind of forget, or you forget to do for yourself. And if it takes any effort, you immediately are like, I don't know if I have the energy for that. Whereas if you had, if it was for someone else that you loved, you would totally find the energy, right? We come through for our kids even when we're sick, even when we're tired. We come through because it's important. And so you need to be on that list of people you come through for. And that is why, after a long time of not going to the gym because I didn't have a car, I started going to the gym again. And just the little things, like if you find that you're not getting enough sleep, you can start saying to yourself, I love you and I care about you, and I know that it's important that you get sleep, and I'm going to make it a priority. Um, I'm going to arrange things so that you can do that, and sleep is a tricky one. I know a lot of people have sleep problems. I'm just talking about making yourself a priority, not putting everybody else first. Um, we often wonder about how people are going to feel if we don't eat their food, or if we don't participate with them in their, let's just say it, in like some gluttony fests, and we fear disapproval from people if we don't do that. But what um what are we saying to ourselves? Like, do we fear our own disapproval? You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make me happy. That makes me stressed out and worried. And I'm important too. In fact, when it comes to my abstinence, um, being able to show up for people in my life requires me to show up for myself. And so when it comes down to like economic decisions, the salad is more expensive than the dollar menu thing, I'm going to choose the salad, even though that maybe uses my family's resources. I'm worth it, you know? And I know that I show up better for them if I take care of me. If it comes down, so that's an economic decision. If it comes down to pleasing someone else or my abstinence, I have to go with my abstinence. And the people who love me and are worthy of my consideration, are going to understand, and they do. And they do, especially when I say, you know, I choose not to have that. I just never have that. That's just not something I have. And I appreciate that you were so thoughtful and so kind to think that to want to give that to me. But it's just not something I have. And I don't have to make an excuse or even an explanation. I think that's enough. And you're thanking them for the effort. And you can keep the thought and the intention and the love without accepting the thing that will hurt you. And if you really have people in your life that will be highly insulted if you don't like eat their food or whatever, you have to think about, is that person good for me in the long run? Because what they're basically saying is, I like you better sick and fat. I like you better when you don't like yourself. And I get that it can be hard for other people when we change, and they can have fears and they can have thoughts about, whether our status is changing or whether they might feel jealous or they might feel guilty that they're not making changes themselves that they need to make. But all of that is for them to deal with. That is not my stuff. That is not your stuff. That's for them. That's their work. And so your work is to take really good care of you and just not being harsh, but nobody else is going to do it. Nobody else can do it. Only you can give yourself the love that you need. You have to do it. And if you want to show up for your family and your friends, you really do have to put on your oxygen mask first before you can help anybody else with theirs. It's really true. If you think about it, if you get sick, who is going to take care of the people you take care of? If you don't feel good about yourself and you're, severely depressed, who's going to show up for people in the way that you show up for them now? And if you really get a debilitating disease, they might end up having to take care of you. And how are you going to feel about that? How are you going to feel if you know that you're not going to be around much longer and you're just going to be completely absent? And these are hard things to look at, but it's super important. We can't afford the luxury of negative thoughts, and we definitely can't afford to be mean to ourselves. You have to learn to love yourself so that you can love other people. And because you deserve love, because you are intrinsically valuable and awesome, and you need to be the person that you really can be. And there is a part of you that knows this, and I invite you to get back in touch with her. If you've fallen out of touch, write her a love letter. Think of things you love about yourself. Start with that. If you can only find one nice thing to say about yourself, start with that and start faking it. Take care of yourself like you love yourself. Eat like you love yourself. Move your body like you love yourself. And if you need a model for how you should treat yourself, think about how you would treat a beloved child and start with that. Think about what would delight that inner child in you and start to do more of that. And it's okay to put yourself on the list of people that you're nice to. It's more than okay. It's imperative if you're going to keep showing up for everyone else. I love you guys, and I hope you're having a great week, and I will talk to you soon.